Hello everyone, how are you today? Okay, we're going to talk about learning a standard. I've seen some videos on internet, on YouTube about this subject, but honestly, it didn't really satisfy me that much, what I've seen. I'm going to start talking about how to learn a standard. I'm going to try to be practical about it, and I'll try to show you some tips that you can practically start using right away. Okay, first of all, let's start by learning the melody. I mean, obviously, a lot of jazz musicians try to practice a lot more complicated stuff, playing over the changes. But, I mean, I'm guilty of this myself. How embarrassing it is when somebody says, why don't the guitar player start playing with the melody? Why don't you take the melody and I'll take it on the bridge? And then you look in front and you realize you don't know the melody well enough to play, because all you wanted to do is blow over the changes, right? So learning a melody is very important. You know why? Not only to be able to play the melody correctly, but knowing the melody really, really well helps you improvise better. How? You can have it going on as a placeholder somewhere in the back of your head while you're soloing. And a lot of musicians did that. Actually, some very odd players like Ornette Coleman, he talked about improvising off of melody, and he just dismissed the changes completely and just tried to improvise off of the melody, okay? And it's very important. Okay, so there's another thing. I mean, if you can always use real book, right? But you have to be careful about some things about real book, because in real book, it references to a certain recording. The thing with the jazz musicians, I mean, they try to play the melody right, but they try to interpret the melody and change it a little bit. That's the nature of jazz. If the tune is from a soundtrack of a movie, like, Sound of Music, and there's a standard from that movie. I mean, you can find it. You can try to transcribe the very, very core of the music before jazz musicians start to play it, and replace some of the chords with sevenths. Okay, if Frank Sinatra sings the melody, he is always good to transcribe from, because Frank Sinatra does not change the melody that much, does not interpret it that much. He is really close to the original melody. All right. We also talked about distorting the melody or improvising off of melody. Okay. I wrote something simple to demonstrate this. All right. Here's my example of improvising off of melody. Great, you've seen this example, and this is the very basic way of doing this, and then you can just extend it more and more and more, play with it. I mean, it can come to a point where you can hardly hear the melody, or just what you're playing reminds it from far away, okay? All right, this is about almost everything I'm going to say about the melody. Learning the melody, improvising off the melody. Okay, you're going to start playing tune, right? You learn the changes, you learn the melody. How are we going to start? It's always good to count it off. You don't get me wrong. It's great that you can count it off. But what if there was a way that you could just start playing and then bring the band in without even talking or making an arrangement about it. How cool is that? What if you start playing from the bridge of the tune, right? And you make it rubato, and then you do fill-ins in between. And then at some point, you go into time, matching a tempo that you would like to play the song in, okay? As soon as the other jazz musicians, so I'm in rhythm section, the bass player and the drummer, heard you playing that you're in time, they can join in. Let's hear an example of it. Okay. Great. Okay, this is what I meant. I mean, you could complicate this a lot more, and you can just, play more in between. When it's rubato, you are the master. You change a bar. When you say the bar is changed, and then you go on to the next changes. I mean, you can make the notes longer, stretch out the bars, play some fills in it. So it's a great way to start, just to start playing, and then it usually sounds cool. Okay, there's another possibility for a good introduction. You can always play 1-6-2-5. I mean, since we're discussing Autumn Leaves here, it's got to be a minor tune, and it's got to be a minor 1-6-2-5. You play it like 8 bars or 4 bars, but you make it obvious that you're starting the melody, and then they'll come in, okay? Let's hear an example of that too. We've talked about counting off. It's always I personally like to start playing somehow. You can also make an arrangement for intro. That's another possibility. But if you're meeting with new guys, you don't know them, you don't know what they like, it's always great to start playing. And there are ways to do that, just like I talked about the examples, okay? Think about that. Okay, what else for learning a standard? Obviously, you need to know the chord changes really well, right? And to be able to do that, you have to be really, really, really in control with arpeggios. You have to know arpeggios in every possible place, in every possible octave in your instrument. And you should be able to play along with the changes by changing the arpeggios. I wouldn't practice memorized up and downs. Once I learned the places, I would just try to use the chord tones and following the changes. For this tune, Autumn Leaves, I'm posting a link down in the description where you can download all the arpeggios for guitar. For other instruments, they can also use that. You can transcribe masters. Transcription is a great tool. Once you learn the transcribed solo, exactly, you would want to change some of the lines. I mean, I personally don't transcribe full solos anymore. If I like a very good line, 4 bars, 8 bars, I take it. First, I learn how to play it. If the line is within 1 octave, I try to play it in different octaves, okay? After that, I try to do minor changes to it. As final step, I do a big change to the line where you're not able to recognize it anymore. It reminds you a little bit, okay? I'll give you all examples of that. I mean, this example line is played by Chet Baker over Autumn Leaves, okay? Here is the what original recording sound like. Now, after this, I changed this line a little bit, okay? And then here's slightly changed version. You have to make an effort to change the line because even though your changes are minor, it forces you to find ways to change the solo. And then it makes you think differently. But you should be able to recognize the line still. That's an important part. You should be, when you hear the changed line, you should be able to tell that it's a derivative from the original, in this case, Chet Baker line. And our example line sounds like that. And finally, you should come up with a completely different line on your own, okay? And here's an example of what I mean. Great. Now that we have done this, obviously you shouldn't only do one line. You should probably do 2-3 lines, maybe, or preferably from more than one soloist, more than one master, and then try to come up with changes, and then try to come up with a new line after that. Okay. Improvisation and line library is a cumulative process, and it builds up little by little. It's a bit tenacious. Don't expect to play endless line right away. But little by little, if you keep doing this, it is the fastest way to start talking bebop. Okay, if you want to speak bebop, that's the way to go. Learn the tradition, try to change it, try to come up with your own lines, okay? And yeah, that's about it for this week. I hope this makes a difference about how you look at learning a jazz standard. Have a nice day.